I'm going to have to be like muting everything. Yeah, sure. I'll lead off. Hey, everybody.
Hey, there we go.
The AMA with Mike Meyers. Hold on. I got to mute everything here.
Yeah, me too.
Mike Meyers. Hold on. I got to mute everything here. Okay, muted. Okay. All right, let's try that again. Hey, welcome to the Monday AMA with Mike Meyers and Scott Jernigan and Dave Rush. So we are, Mike, as he mentioned last week, is on the road doing his August vacation, and he will be checking in with us, hopefully, assuming he's anywhere near a cell phone connection. So there you go. In fact, he posted earlier in the live chat, this is a little testing 1, 2, 3. So I think he's somewhere in Kansas. I'm not joking. He's somewhere in Kansas. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's a driving vacation, Andre. He is cruising up to some national parks and seeing some sites where there aren't any people and being very, very safe. So yeah, he's taking a vacation. So, so the reason we're doing this show and the reason Mike started doing this show is to provide a space for those of us who are studying for CompTIA certification to be able to ask questions and continue your studies. So the whole goal of the AMA is for you to ask questions. And in this case, Dave and I, and possibly Mike at some point, will be answering your questions. We're gonna run from 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time till 4 o'clock Central Daylight Time, or as Mike likes to say, until the questions run out. So there you go. Just for being here today on this channel, we have specials. Let me post those. I think Dave's gonna flip the screen as well. The AMA special for the day is 50% off all our Total Tester standalone products. Just use the code MMLive803 at checkout from TotalSim.com. There it is. Thank you, Dave. And so today we'll take questions, and also, assuming there's time, Dave is going to do a presentation or two. Dave, you want to talk about that?
Hey, why not? And I've also got the contact information up. I'll pull that for the moment. I'll stick it up again in a few minutes.
Okay.
So we got the word the other day that Mike was going to be traveling today and wasn't sure that he would be able to make the live presentation. And again, this will be interesting if he does. We may see him cruising down the highways of North Kansas or something. It'll be fun. But Scott and I were talking and saying, you know, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do questions the way Mike does, so we better have a presentation on tap. And what we did was we came up with a pair of linked presentations, and one that'll even feed into, if Mike isn't available on Wednesday, one for that. So we're going to talk about today, again, time permitting, where do these MAC addresses come from? So you get this network interface card and it's got a MAC burned in on it, and well, did some manufacturer just buy that, buy a blank EEPROM and come up with a number, or is there a more formalized process? And I'm sure you realize that there is. And so we're going to look into that, and then we're going to look into, okay, your Ethernet card has a MAC address. What does it do with it? I mean, we all have this kind of basic raw thing. Well, it goes in as a source address and somebody uses it as a destination address. But as you won't be surprised, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more depth. So we'll dive into those things, time permitting.
Sounds great, Dave. Sounds great. And Mike is on, by the way. He's, yes, on vacation, but his internet is questionable. So, and of course, Alice, yeah. Always the Wizard of Oz when thinking about Kansas and tornadoes and the dog's named Toto. So let's see who's on.
Yeah, mine just did that shrinky dink thing. There we go.
Yeah. So Derek posted like 30 minutes before we started. Hi. Hello, it. Yeah. Hey, good to see you, of course. Marnix, Scott, Shook, Taylor Brook. Hey, Alice, Posey, Buonasera. Did I say that right?
Buonasera. That's one of my favorite lines from a Puccini opera.
Well, there we go. We're going to do
all
opera.
2 words.
Alan Dugan, Kevin Lopez. Hello. Witchblade. Witchblade just found out about this channel, so welcome. Mario, I'm not going to try and pronounce your last name. Dave can try it.
And Mario, I'm working on an answer to your question. I've been working on coming up with a VNC that will work on Cali. And when we get around to Pi Day again, I'll have a firm answer one way or the other.
Excellent. So Brendan S., of course, LBOE, Greg Davis, Andre, already mentioned. Aida, excellent. Karen, welcome. Oh, you're taking the 1001 tomorrow. Well, good luck. Good luck, Karen. I don't think you'll need luck the way you've been asking questions. So I think you'll take it and knock it out of the park. That's a baseball reference, American. Sorry. And you're in London, right, Karen? And you don't need to.
Hey, Marvick's got a comment here. I'm not sure if I'm above or below you. It looks like. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. I say, okay, wait a minute. There's a conversation going on here where Marmix, let's see, Scott Shook tells Marmix that IP addresses are logical, not physical. That sounds good. And then Marmix responds, in that case, the quiz on the first chapter is wrong. So Marmix, first chapter of what? Of one of Mike's books, one of our video course presentations. Fill us in and let me know what or why you think that's wrong, and we'll take a look at that.
So
wrong is bad.
We can answer that pretty quickly, though, right? An IP address is not the physical address; that's the MAC address. So when Dave talks about MAC addresses a little bit later this afternoon, we'll definitely swap between physical address, MAC address, and logical addresses, IP addresses. So yeah, Marnix, it's definitely the MAC address is the physical address.
Aida wants to know, will the PowerShell demo be delayed, be aired? Yes, it will certainly be aired. Mike created a presentation for it, and it's no doubt sitting on the computer that he's traveling with. So I know there are a number of days that he's planning on stopping and doing presentations. My guess is that would be one of them. I know that he's planning on doing the James Stanger one. He'll be stopped someplace for that. So yes, there will be a PowerShell demo / presentation, and Mike will be the one doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got the whole speed racer LBOE. And when I pulled it down from, I have a video studio upstairs, and this is one of the props from up there. And I brought it down here and I set him up and discovered that he's about 6'2". And when I'm sitting here, I'm about 3'2". So I just can't quite get the whole speed in there. Wait till you see the other. I got a number of other character cutouts and cool props.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing the entire thing, Dave, at some point.
Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. Oh, here, go ahead, Scott. I got to look at something.
Okay, so Andrew's going, I loved that show when I was a kid. My dad had it on cassette. Dave and I are old enough that we actually watched it live. So there's it was definitely my favorite show. So pick it all up with Speed Racer.
Yeah, real high on my list.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yoga in Yellowstone. That would be really cool if Mike would do yoga in Yellowstone and have Wissa take some video.
No, please don't. No video. No video.
Thank you, Nata D. Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed the Pi desktop. Good. Keep it up. If you've only bought one so far.
Yeah, you don't quite have the addiction down like Dave does with his. How many Pis do you have now, Dave?
It's close to 100.
Wow.
But they're not all working today.
So, okay.
Excuse me.
Right at the very tail end of the questions here, Witchblade, who's on here for the first time, is like, who are you? Who are you guys? So let me tell you, I'm Scott Jernigan. I'm editor-in-chief for Total Seminars. I am the top editor for all of our and an instructor for the last 20 years in A+, Net+, Security+. I'm also the co-author of numerous books with Mike Meyers on everything from IT fundamentals to contributing to A+, Network+, and his co-author on his Security+ book.
And a standalone author in your own right, a number of books to your credit.
Yep.
If you want to learn about ITF, you want Scott.
And so Dave Rush is our senior instructor at Total Seminars and our primary online instructor as well. So those of you who are coming from Udemy or from Education to Go, you will know Dave personally because he answered your question.
You don't know. We kind of hide that, but for you guys, we would open it up. If you're playing on the Udemy environment and you post a message on any of the forums in any of our courses, you'll get a response from a character known as TA or teaching assistant. But there's a 99.75% chance the real initials are DR.
For David Rush.
So if I answer, shortly or something like that, come back here and yell me. But I don't tend to do that. I tend to be quite the opposite. Oh man, sorry.
Quite chatty in that tea. What was that?
This is a silly
There's lots of people around us. My college-age son is somewhere in the house. I have a very loud dog. So if I go mute at some point here, that's because my dog just decided to bark at something and we don't know what, but she's really loud. So.
And my missus, I'm sharing her office. She allows me to do this. So she may be her phone ring or something like that. Along those lines, we take live questions here. When questions get thin, we do a presentation and let the questions pile up and then go back and get them. However, should you come up with a question that we can't get to, or it's too long to answer in a practical way and you've just got to know, then you should contact us. And Mike, even while he's traveling, I know he's checking his emails and he's giving answers, and Scott and I are doing the same thing. So let me give you a way to do that. If you would like to get in touch with Mr. Meyers himself, he's very accessible. Send him an email to michaelm@totalsem.com. I'll bet he'll find some time in the evening to do a little gaming. You can find him on Steam as Senor Pepe. And for all of his other accounts, for various other emails, if he's got a Yahoo or a Gmail or a Proton, there's a good chance that you'll find it at DesWeds at. And if you look that up, if you just do a Google search on DesWeds, most of the hits there are related to Mike. You can catch me at the same company address, Dave R. at TotalSem, and you are welcome to contact me at my, personal address, DRushTX. That's Dave Rush in Texas at Yahoo. Please, if you send me a message, send it to one or the other address. Don't send it to both because they both auto forward to each other, and then it starts an infinite cycle that winds up putting the entire universe into one singular black hole. So we don't want to do that. When I'm steaming, I had a typo the other day on my Steam for this thing. I'm Blood Rush TX, not surprisingly. Scott, same accessible. We're all over Total Sem by our first name and last initial. So Scott J, Total Sem. Scarheart on Steam. What are you playing these days, Scott?
I'm playing Conan Exiles, Civilization 6, and still a lot of Counter-Strike Go. So
excellent. So WoW has kind of dropped a little bit?
Yeah. WoW it dropped out. I played Classic for a bit when it came out, but yeah, it's hard to go back.
I understand. If you need to have a conversation with any of us, it will be challenging, but not impossible. The phone number is here, 281-992-4166. Nobody is there at the office to answer them. They are forwarded to different people in our office on a daily basis, some of the administrative people and some of the management. So I've got to talk to Mike. Well, you call up, and if you have the best sob story in the world and the best emergency ever, they may try and get you connected, but your best bet is to try email first.
Absolutely. Stuff. We do have a bunch of questions that have come in.
I figured there would be.
Yeah. Comments about Speed Racer, of course.
As well, there should be. I thought about putting both sides up, but there might be another day to do a surprise.
So Witchblade and comments too. Mike Meyers, one of the best learning programs out there. I highly recommend it to all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Esther Enderly passed her 1001 on Friday. So congrats.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah. And so good luck on 1002.
Which I presume you're taking today.
So Marnix,
people do that, right? It's kind of, they'll just kill themselves studying for 120 hours and then schedule them back to back with a 20-minute break in between them. And
that's how I take them.
Yeah. Yeah, but some people pass theirs. Oh, I know. That was harsh and uncalled for and not true.
Yeah, so what we do at Total Seminars, because as soon as the new tests come out, we all take them, right? And it's not that we are afraid we're going to fail or we take them to fail so that we get to see the questions multiple times. No. It's the challenge. It's the competition. Who's going to get high score? That's why we take the exams. And of course, to learn the new exam questions and stuff. But yeah.
Andre wants to know what I do with over 100 pies. Well, frankly, these days, most of them are in the box. I always had a handful of them down at the office and a handful here. There are zillions of different servers that I run at any given time. And whenever anything new comes up, somebody says, hey, I got a cool product, I have a cool idea, or if there's something that I need to learn about and I can use a pie to do it, I do it. Sometimes I'll use an existing one, but here comes a new project. How to use 13 pies to set up a 12 monitor video wall. Well, I got 13 pies ready to go, and I have done that. I've hooked up many monitors, but I haven't actually nailed them to the walls because I like to stay married.
Good plan. Good plan. And you're at what, 31 years?
I'll be 35 in October.
35. Wow.
Yep, sir. And if I buy one more pie, that'll be it.
I should put up with you this long. This is all good. LBOE definitely said he's been swapping questions with you on Udemy, so that's fun.
Okay. Let me know that it's you sometime, LBOE, because I don't know if you've got a different name on there or something like that. But now you know me, so just add a little LBOE in parentheses or something, and I'll see that, and I'll give you better service. How's that?
Awesome.
ABC Def, what CompTIA and general ITSec certifications should I do as a security consultant with a bachelor's degree in business information systems and little work experience? What certifications do you have? I'll take the Mike hat on here for a second and say, you've got a degree, you have some certifications, I presume, if you're pursuing this. Get a job. Get that company to pay for your next certification. Get that company to tell you what certification they would like you to achieve. The other direction is get a job and then keep job hunting for that job that you want and find out what their requirements are. Find out what the job tasks are, what their specific credentials that they want you to hold, and pursue those certifications. We could go out right now and say, you should get A+, Net+, Security+, CyberSec+, Cloud Security+, and the list goes on. And once you've got that list of credentials, now go find a job in general IT security. I'm not even sure what that means. So you got to get a little more specific about what you want to do and what the credentials they want you to have. And you solve that little work experience by getting a job. It doesn't have to be the dream job. It doesn't have to be the top job. A job in the industry. If you have to intern, get a paid internship, but get a job. And that will open up opportunities. That will make networking available to you. You will see different kinds of jobs and be exposed to things you want to do and things that says, oh my goodness, I don't ever want to do that. Hey, what kind of secure credentials did you have that got you this job? Okay, I'm not going after those. What do you think, Scott?
All right, so Witchblade asks, can you tell us how we can do practice tests for the A+? There are a lot of companies that produce practice exams, Total Seminars being one of those. We think our tests are great, of course, and they're currently 50% off for those of you who are watching this AMA. We'll post that information in a bit. But there are lots of other companies, and I would suggest even not just doing our practice exams, but if you can, get questions from other people. We're all looking at the same CompTIA exams, but none of us have the perfect answers. And we write in different ways. We introduce in the explanations for incorrect answers in different ways, sharing that information with you. And so plenty of companies, Transcender has always been the kind of Cadillac of question companies. They were bought out by Kaplan IT, and now they've been bought out again, or they've changed their name again, and I don't remember what it is. Somebody else.
Mario asked a question. He says he emailed Scott or emailed Mike, and with Mike on holiday. First of all, Mike is reading his emails and he is answering them. And I suspect that if there's one that he doesn't have time to get around to, he will forward it to Scott or I. So it'll get answered by somebody. My question, will the following regarding CompTIA A+ 101, yes, that one that says physical networking.
So this is a follow-up to his earlier question about, so there might make a note of that and check that episode. There might be an error in there or a misstatement.
Okay, that's you're thinking that's in the all-in-one book?
No, I think it's in the Udemy course because he keeps using the word course.
Okay. All right, Udemy 1001 first quiz physical networking. All right, I will check that as soon as we're done with this today.
So Alice has a question. You could probably handle this pretty handily, Dave. I have difficulties in grabbing the concept of desktop as a service. I always mistake it with software as a service in the tests.
Okay. I don't think there are any of the courses that that call for desktop as a service, but happy to talk about it. So let's do software as a service first. That is almost a marketing term, in my opinion. Software as a service is a way for a software company like Microsoft. Looking across the desk here at the missus, she's an accountant. She's using a cloud-based QuickBooks and sometimes a local one. And software as a service is this service by the company that says, if you pay us some regular fee or an annual fee or whatever, we will provide software services to you, including updates, maybe technical support, various things like that. So it's not very specific to any particular piece of software. It's a company that provides software. Maybe they have one piece of software. Maybe like Microsoft has a suite of software with their, what's the new name? Office 360? Office 365. They changed the name, well, whatever it is. So all the usual suite of Microsoft products. Everybody at Total Seminars is a subscriber to these suites. So we get our packages updated regularly and constantly, just like Microsoft, well, heck, Windows 10 is a software as a service type platform. They continually update it for us. Desktop as a service, that's a really interesting thing. That says you have enough code on your computer, and it might be almost zero, to call up a server that holds an operating system that can be downloaded into your computer's memory, or just enough code to download screen and keyboard and mouse software, and inside some computer out there, a virtual machine, is running a copy of Windows or Mac or Linux, And so you may not even have a local actual physical operating system sitting here at your machine, but it looks like you do. You've got a monitor, you've got a keyboard, you've got a screen. So they're providing you the desktop interface, but the processing and the horsepower and all of that good, creamy, gooey stuff lives on another computer someplace else. So it's not something that gets updated. I suppose the operating system within that VM gets updated, but that's not the core of the technology. The core of the technology says you can have a really cheap computer here with very, very little RAM or CPU horsepower or any of that stuff. And again, you're just a screen, a keyboard, and a monitor, and all the computer power and all the software and all the in another computer someplace else. Sound about right?
That sounds right
I
to
made
me.
that up totally.
So Derek has another question specifically for you, by the way.
Oh,
Dave, for me to really grasp the CompTIA A+ course, do I have to practice with hardware?
Wow.
I just have a
Yeah. I'm going to rephrase your question first of all, and then I'm going to come back to that question. For me to really pass the CompTIA A+ course, do I need to get my hands on a computer? And the answer to that is no. You can buy Mike's book. If you are a reader, you like to read books, you can open 1,300 pages and read them page by page by page and think about it and memorize it and make flashcards and do whatever, and never touch a computer until you go to take the test. A home-based test, you're going to need a computer. There will be one in the office. Now, your quest a little deeper. How do I grasp it? Yeah, practice it, right? So if you're studying on a computer, if you're using PDFs, if you're using one of the online courses, a video course, something like that, then every time you run across something new, a command, practice it, use it, and try all the permutations of it. Don't just try what Mike demonstrates. Hey, wait a minute, what happens if I do this switch? What happens if I do that switch? Google things. And when it comes time and Mike demonstrates on a video how to change out the RAM in your computer. I'm not sure that I recommend doing that on your live daily driver, but go on Craigslist, go on FreeCycle, go on wherever you can get free things, and get an old piece of junk computer. It doesn't have to work. Not an all-in-one and not a laptop. You want a desktop or tower, something like that. And when Mike demonstrates or writes about how to install RAM and how to remove RAM, open that bad boy up, turn the power off, turn the switch off, and follow Mike's instructions or do a little wiggling and diggling and take that RAM out and look at it and put it back in and find out what's involved with getting it lined up right. Why do I want to do this? Number one, to grasp it so you know it well for the test. Number two, why are you studying this material? Why do you want to become A+ certified or Net Plus certified? Because you want to do this stuff. You want to be a technician and work your way up to the ranks, or maybe start a little bit higher. You want to be able to walk in with that skill set. When Mike hired me, I didn't have to demonstrate anything hands-on at the interview. But day 2 of the company, he grabbed me and took me to a computer store and said, let's pick some computer components because we need one for some project at the office. And we bought a bunch of supplies, and then he dropped them off in a lab and said, call me when you have it built. It'd sure be terrifying if all I'd ever done was read a book before I got there. Right. So yeah, you really want to grasp it for all those reasons. It helps to have a computer on hand that you can play with. But if you don't have one, if you can't get one, you can still learn this stuff and pass it. And the book provides a lot of depth and a lot of background that will kind of supplant lack of physical experience. You will have a lot more ability to talk about what's going on there than I just knew enough stuff to pass a test or to answer a question. Hope that helps.
So Mario has a question on hexadecimal numbering.
Oh no. I have a sentence in my notes there that says, by the way, I'm not going to get into hex today.
let me take it. So you guys, hex numbering goes from 0 to 9, A through F, or 0 to 15. I got the 0 to 9 and the A through F, but then the 0 through 15 got me all rusted up. So please help me on that. Hexadecimal is simply a shorthand code for 4 binary digits, 4 bits, 4 wires. right? With four wires, they're in binary, they're either on or off, right? You don't do the obvious follow up with the middle finger or anything. They're either on or they're off. With four separate wires, you can have up to 16 different combinations of 1 or 0 on those wires at any time. So they can be all zeros, for example. They could be all ones. So we need a way of making shorthand for the states of those binary wires. So if they're all off, we can call that a 0. If just the first wire is on, we can call that a 1. If just the second wire is on, we can call that a 2. You get it? We can go all the way from 0 through 15 different combinations on those wires. Now, the computer doesn't care, right? It's looking at the ones and zeros, but humans need some other way of communicating complex strings of ones and zeros that makes a little more sense to us. And so thus comes in hexadecimal. So when we're counting from 0 to 15, and we need a single digit, a single unit to be able to describe the state of those wires. So 0 through 9, right? In decimal, that makes sense, right? But what do we do when we go to 10? That's a 1 0. That doesn't make any sense. And it's 2 digits long. So we need to come up with some way of describing a 10 in binary. And so the powers that be came up with A. That just means 10. B, the next step up, is 11. And C is 12, D 13, E 14, and F is 15. So with hexadecimal, those final letters are simply a single unit to describe what in decimal would be 2 units, like 1 0. Fair enough?
Very nice. So it's just a single digit method of representing all of the values that in decimal we would say from 0 through 15. But since you don't have 2 characters, sometimes 11 is an A, or 10 is an A, 11 is a B, 12 is a C, and so forth. Nice job, Scott.
Thank you. And well summarized, Dave.
Yeah, that's what we do.
So is that pop? Witchblade, I don't understand your question. Is that pop 3?
I think you're ahead of me. I got a Witchblade from earlier that I wanted to do something here. Witchblade plays Conan Exiles. X-Files. That's the crossover with Scully and Mulder, which would be so cool. I love this. Conan X-Files. Anyways, watch for Scott. You'll recognize him as Scarheart. Let him find him. Let him know what server you're on. Maybe you will have some fun. Brendan, I have a question for you. You don't have to answer this here. This question, is Active Directory covered in more detail in Net Plus? I have 2 answers for that. No. Yeah, tiny little bit, but no. Net Plus is a course about networking, not about Windows Server or Active Directory. We talk a little bit about the LDAP and the LDAP-S protocol and protocol numbers, but no, not Active Directory. My other question, I guess my question and my answer, is somebody asked me almost this identical question 2 or 3 days ago on Udemy. So let me know if that was you, and we'll see if I can help fill that out a little more. Go get him, Scott.
So, okay, conversation happening, yes, between Andre and Derek. Nigel, and Nigel, you had an earlier question. Mike's in Kansas, somewhere on the road in Kansas. So he's trying to ping in here and be part of the conversation. And if he's anywhere near a signal, I'm sure you'll see his happy little face appear right here in the stream. But if he's too far outside of his city right now, then maybe he can communicate with text, but that's it.
They're burning down cornfields to make smoke signals. Somebody's going to read the smoke signals and go.
So, and Nigel also pops up here saying, my computer's not powerful enough to run games, to which I'm sorry. I'm very sorry for you. Those are people in the at Total Seminars knows that the real reason that I do any kind of computing at all is gaming. All the rest of it, all the stuff that pays the bills,
Fortunately, his gaming computer is powerful enough to let him word process.
right? Exactly. So masculine milk toast.
Yeah, what a name, huh?
How valuable would CompTIA A+ certification be if I'm not seeking a career in IT, but exploring whether to pursue a side gig as a PC tech? Okay, you want to take a stab or you want me to?
You start.
Okay. One, it would show credentials, right? So you could say, oh, don't worry, I can handle fixing your PC because I'm a CompTIA A+ certified technician, which means, as you explain to the customer, that I know which end of the screwdriver to use fixing your machine. So from a credential standpoint, absolutely, A+ certification would be useful to put on your business card. It's a relatively expensive certification if you're not planning for being a PC tech or a help desk. So you need to kind of factor that out too. And I think it's great certification. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't write books on it, but there you go. So that's what I say. So yes, it would be useful.
I think we're pretty much in agreement here. The certification, great for marketing, great for credentialing. And what it represents, the knowledge that it represents, is what you need to know to be a side gig PC tech.
Right.
So even if you don't get the certification, the two exams together are about $550, something like that, $278 a piece.
Something like that. Yeah.
Discount. Learn the material. There are plenty of self-taught folks out there, and after you've made enough money fixing friends and neighbors and clients' computers, and you got an extra $500, then go get the paper. But at least the knowledge, if not the paper itself.
Absolutely. So here's one from Cully Dooley.
What a name too. I love that one, Cully.
All right. I'm practicing for Security Plus. What ports are most important? And how do I know if they are TCP or UDP ports?
You want it?
Go for it.
Okay, because you're current on Sec Plus. Me too. Okay, so the good news is about that. If you look at the Security Plus objectives, you'll see a handful. They don't list ports in the objectives in the current one or the new one coming up and the 501. They do list protocols, and they say you have to know the ports. Okay, you do. Well, let's go with that. There are only about 6 ports that we talk about in the grand entirety of A+, Net+, Sec+, that are UDP. And in all the tests that I have ever taken, I have never gotten a question where I had to differentiate that a given port is TCP or is UDP. So I don't believe you need to know that. I think if you ever did get a question on that, fine, it's worth missing that one question if you didn't bother to memorize it. Assume you got a 99% chance that if there is something that they're asking about, it's a TCP port. Now, which is most important? There is no most important one. In the real world, there are probably answers for that, and that answer is the ones that you use the most. But on the exam, let's say that there's 50 ports in the pool. You have no idea, I have no idea which one you're going to get a question on. There's an even distribution of them spread randomly throughout the questions. So as far as knowing it for the CompTIA exam, they are all of equal importance and they are all of equal unimportance.
Sounds good.
Here's a project for you. Build your own drone. It's doable. There are folks who have done it. The Pi is not a great box for a drone. There are chips out there that have the gyroscopes built in and the built-in GPS and everything else, and they're smaller and they're lighter and they suck up less power. So yeah, cool, you could do it. And if you're a Pi head and you do everything with Pis, then by all means, but there are definitely better solutions. God, did I say that?
You did. You actually said not to use a Pi. Yes. for something, anything. Speaking of which, Derek is like, I thought Raspberry Pis were basically for embedded systems, like real-time operating systems. And here's the $1 million question. What can I use a Pi for?
Okay,
Dave?
what time is it? So there's no way to answer that. If you can think of something that can be done with a computer, a Pi can probably do it. If it's a super high performance, if you're talking about making a gaming rig, you can't do that. For desktoping, for managing and monitoring sensors, turning on and off things, running servers, the list is endless. Pop over to the to raspberrypi.org, click on the forums tab, and go look in the projects tab, and your eyes will explode, your brain will explode. There are bazillions and bazillions and bazillions of, things.
Yeah.
Okay. Mario says it's in the book, the 1001 book.
Yep.
And Mario, I'm going to presume that is the all-in-one book, not the managing PCs and troubleshooting, but I'll check them both. All in one.
You can also, if you find something that seems to be an error in one of our books, we do keep a pretty, well, it's not extensive because there aren't that many errors, but some typos do creep in. And we have an errata page for each of our books, our publications, at totalsim.com under support. So you can check that out and see what errors people have found. Because the books get reprinted, our publisher will go to that errata page and update each new printing of the book to fix anything that we found. So the errata will look like, there's 20 things wrong in the book, but there might be only one of those in your copy at this point, since the book's been out for a couple of years, or at least a year.
And Scott's email address is in one of the early pre-chapters, contact for support and things like that. And of course,
Absolutely.
we got it posted here. We'll throw it up again at the end of the session. Welcome, Alice.
So Allison, thanks. Yeah, good. Okay. Esther is studying. Good. Getting ready for the 1002. Tulawit, yes. Creative Cloud is definitely software as a service.
Yepper.
Taylor, I always confuse infrastructure as a service and
Platform.
Thank you. Platform as a service. You want to take it?
Sure. In order of complexity, we'll start with platform as a service. Platform as a service is a server. It may involve more than one server, but in general, let's make it a server. And it's a server on which a person or a team develops an application. So it's that shared box that allows collaborative development and testing. It's a simple, straightforward thing. Infrastructure as a service is when you recreate a network environment, servers, routers, and virtualized switches, hosts, all that whole thing, and its use doesn't translate well into the world that you and I and most of the people sitting here playing AMA fit into. This is a world in many cases for an enterprise network where it makes more sense for them to virtualize and let live in the cloud a whole bunch of equipment rather than have all of that stuff in racks in their local facility. So long and short of it, IaaS is a virtualized rack of gear that I'd rather keep up in the cloud. And again, that's difficult for us to sort of visualize how that fits. But again, you have to live in that enterprise mindset as opposed to the Soho mindset with the small companies and our residences for that to make a great deal of sense.
So, Witchblade, why are so many IT guys married to accountants?
Because the models don't talk to us.
There you go. And Tulawit, desktop as a service is like the old dumb terminals.
sort of. Think of it as a remote console where you remote to a virtual machine. But yeah, it's
but it's the operating system
analogous.
is downloaded, runs in RAM, right?
It could be done in both ways. It could be a source, and then you download into RAM and run it locally, or you like Citrix is a DAS, and
Sure.
that's not run locally.
Right. Okay.
DAS is like TeamViewer, yes. Yes, though you usually wouldn't. Like TeamViewer says, I've got a local standalone computer sitting in my office downtown, and I'm up here out of town, and I want to take over its screen and keyboard. That's not really a service. That's just something cool we can do. I can take over the screen and keyboard. That's a remote console. Desktop as a service tends to be a much broader offering that says there exists somewhere in the cloud a server that's got 100 or 500 or 5,000 running desktops in virtual machines, and you TeamViewer to one of those. That would be a little closer to DAS.
Right.
In client, asks Alice. We're prepping just for Mike's potential to be, hey, guys, you need to cover for me. And so I was working on objectives last night, and I'm going to do in that list of presentations a thick client, thin client, and specific thin clients. But yes, a thin client, that is the exact current example of DAS. You use a local thin client. It only has enough stuff that you grab hold of the remote machine and use it remotely. Easy for me to say.
Right. So Witchblade says Mike reminds him of Santa Claus.
Us too. He gives us gifts like jobs.
Yeah, right. Right. Thanks, Mike. What's coming next Christmas? That's what I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
ABC Def says, I have a job in CyberSec, but no certificates. My topic is SIEM. I want to do some CompTIA certs before pursuing CISA, CISM certificate, because these require more experience. Which CompTIAs should I do? Okay, that's pretty straightforward.
Yep.
You at least need the information in Network Plus. So A+ is not quite so much. But the information in Network Plus is important as an underlying knowledge base for going further. And that further would be CompTIA Security Plus. And then perhaps the Cybersecurity Analyst Plus as a follow-up to that. So Security Plus, CYSA Plus, those would be good precursors to doing the CISA, CISM.
Completely agree.
Yep.
Aida built own desktop after the A+ exam. Best learning experience ever. You are not kidding.
Fun.
When the opportunity presents itself, build a machine. If you don't have the funds, build a cheap machine. But get a motherboard and get RAM and get a video card and get a power supply and learn to look at that manual and find the switch settings. It is just powerful. It's empowering, and it will inspire a confidence in you that if you didn't have before, it will just make you soar. SOAR.
Yes. And to Derek's next comment, it could make you soar, SORE. He got his RAM, plugged it back in, and his laptop refused to turn on. Yeah. My first computer was a while ago, and within an hour after I got it, I had deleted the operating system on accident.
Of course.
So, yeah, that first time is fun. And then we absolutely.
Yeah, and everybody mangles installing RAM, not just the first time. I did a rebuild of my gaming rig, I don't know, 6-7 months ago or something like that. And I know what I'm doing. I don't know. I close my eyes and do this, and I powered it up, and where's half the RAM that I installed? And sure enough, just like a first timer, I misseated it. And I was all angry. Somebody sold me bad RAM. No, I'm an idiot. Mario, I got it. Physical networking under hexadecimal. That's where you got the hiccup in Mike's book. Okay. we are looking at it right after class.
So Brendan has definitely asked plenty of questions on Udemy.
Good.
What is a low?
Internship was required for my degree, and all I could find was unpaid with a nonprofit or children's home. That's kind of the nature of what universities do right now. They sort of farm out their students for the educational value, and that's your payment is the education. My kids' college has a mandatory internship abroad program for engineering. I guess you can't become an engineer unless you go to Estonia for a semester and fetch coffee for bridge builders there. So, yep, that's the way of things. But you still got some. They reused and swapped parts, so I can get all my hardware experience that way. So it sounds valuable.
Absolutely. So Bob McGuff, which cert is best towards performing the job of a low voltage technician? A plus or network plus, or maybe both?
Well, okay, a low voltage tech is usually somebody who's playing with voltmeters and solder irons and things like that. And again, there's a difference between a low voltage tech and a high voltage tech that you're obviously aware of. A plus is not about fixing broken circuit boards. It's certainly not about getting into power supplies or anything like that. It's about identifying dead components and removing them and replacing them with new ones. So from that perspective, if our only two choices to give you an answer are A plus or net plus, it's A plus, and net plus is mostly not a hands-on oriented certification. You got to be able to plug in an RJ45 into a port. You should know how to crimp an RJ45 onto a cable, but it's not a manual dexterity kind of course or certification. And you're not going to dive. There's meters, I suppose. There are network testing meters and things like that, but not a low voltage tech type skill set.
Good.
Oh, you get Alice's question.
Me too, Alice. Active directories make me feel sick. I wouldn't accept a job as an Active Directory administrator, not even if it was the most paid job on earth. I'd probably take it if it was the most paid job on earth, just because for that one paycheck, and then quit, Taylor Brook. Oh, that's nice. Taylor's doing an AS degree at community college, and they paid for me to take the A+ exams. It's excellent.
That is the way that things ought to be. Good for you and good for your school.
Yep, absolutely. And Andre, his father's sabotaging him. Difficult for me to earn money with a side job as a PC tech because my father keeps telling everyone that I'll fix it for free.
Nice.
That's great.
Mike has a saying around here that says, if you own a truck or can fix a computer, you will never want for friends.
This is true. This is true. You could be like Dave and have both. And everybody loves him.
I have no truck.
Stop spoiling the good stories, Dave. Making this stuff up.
Hey, congratulations, Telewit. You got your Net Plus book in.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Good. And Bob had not seen that we had gotten to his question.
Yeah.
Kevin Lopez, is the pandemic a good thing or bad thing for the prospect of entry-level jobs? Do you think entry-level pay will increase or decrease? I'm not sure about pay, but certainly help desk jobs are very much in demand. And because they can be done remotely for the most part, it's what a lot of people are turning to. So entry-level help desk, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a sociological question. Is COVID good or bad for anything? Yeah, there's always some perspective, but I don't know what the impact is on on labor positions out there.
So here's a very specific question from Geraldine. As you climb up the ladder in IT, do you need to be recertified in the basic certification again, since they last for 3 years? Technically, no. And yet technically, yes. Okay, let's peel that apart and think about what you're asking. If you need to get recertified, yes, to keep your certifications current. So if you have A+ and 3 years down the road, it becomes the new A+, and you're still working as an A+ certified technician, then yeah, you should just take the A+ exam again. What a lot of people do though is they use a certification as a stepping stone. And with CompTIA certifications, at least with the Big Four, the taking the next certification up the next step, in other words, taking Network Plus and passing it, of course, automatically renews your credentials for A+. You would, of course, had to have taken A+ first, right? And then take Net Plus a couple of years later or a year later, and it renews your A+. Same thing when you take Security Plus, it automatically renews Net Plus and A+. If you're specializing in a particular field, though, like you are a service technician for a corporation and you are dealing with setting up their networks and doing all that stuff, you should stay current. And doing that, recertifying can be good. It's also a good thing for your employers to be able to say, all of my techs are certified and hold current certification. So it can be a marketing thing as well. Dave, any comment?
I agree. You're dead on.
Okay.
Witchblade's got a neat one here. Can I make a suggestion? He says for CompTIA A+, at the end of the chapter, there are only a few questions. It would be helpful if there were 20 or so questions similar to the book, but not the same ones. So I'm going to presume that you're talking about Udemy or one of our other online courses. And there's kind of an issue there. First of all, we're following a Udemy standard, which is usually 5 to 7 quiz questions at the end. And the reason that even if we didn't follow that, even if we decided to make 30 or 40 or 50 questions, it doesn't work. What we try to do, or what we do with the video courses, is very different than what we do with the book. And so we got to break these down into domains, and the domains cover a tremendous number of topics. And we can't, because of the Udemy platform and other platforms, create enough practice test questions to help you pass the test. And what we want you to do is we want you to pass the test from the information that you gain there and from a real practice test. These are questions that are designed to help you recognize, was I paying close enough attention to watching the lectures and watching the demonstrations to say, yeah, I got all these right, so I must be paying pretty good attention. If I'm missing 30% of the questions, 40% of the questions, that's kind of your indicator that says, I really need to go back and look a little bit more closely. So don't look at them as questions that are testing your knowledge or your preparedness for the exam. They certainly have value there, but their real value says, what am I learning, or am I engaging myself enough for these tests or for these in these lectures? If you want a large number of practice tests, you can get them if you're playing on the Udemy platform. We have practice test courses for almost every course that we have out there, maybe every one. For the A+ 1001, there's a course, they call them a course, but it's a practice test. It's got 390 question practice tests in it. There's another one for the 1002. There's another set of those for Net Plus and a set of those for Sec Plus. And if you zip through those and you're kicking butt, hey, I got a 95 first time out, go take the test. And if not, if you come back and say, only got 40% or 50 or 60%, that's your indication to go back to your study materials and dig in a little further. When you start getting those 90s because you have taken them so many times that you look at the first two words of a question and you already know the answer, because you've taken that question 1,800 times, then it's time to stop and do what Scott recommended earlier. Find another source of practice test questions that's got more and different ones in them. We have some excellent ones available. In fact, we've got a 50% sale on total tester practice tests this very day and all week. I'll put that up in just a second. So do that or find somebody else's. There's some good ones out there that might not be ours, but we're very confident that ours is the best. Let me put up the for sale sheet.
Yeah.
And Scott is posting it as well. Oh, I see. I'm gonna do this. Yeah, I can share it.
Transplant health. Why do we work? Because we spend endlessly on pies and games.
That's right. I saw that.
Team summer sale. Whew. I had to restrain myself. I only bought games for my son. Because, you know.
I didn't buy much, but my kids certainly did.
Yeah. Are you putting the slide up, Dave?
I am. Notepad, GTD, SSH. Oh, there's why. I have to click this.
Click harder, Dave.
Yeah, that's it. You know, keep going on the question while I hunt.
I posted it in the.
Oh, I see what's happening. Okay. Click. Here it is. Okay. So for you nice folks who are kind enough to join us and ask us questions and keep us busy on this stuff, we have a special deal just for you. 50% off all Total Tester standalone products. So buy a Total Tester for Net Plus, buy a Total Tester for A Plus. Use this code when you check out, MMLive803. That would be today's date if you use US date formats. And we believe that to be good through August 9th. If that is incorrect, I'll get that updated for you. Also, if you're a teacher watching, Mike has stuff for you. Kathy has stuff for you. So to help remote learning and what you're doing here by teaching at home or teaching the kids at home. So contact Kathy Yale, that's Kathy Y, 2 Y's at the end, at TotalSim.com. If you're a teacher, don't try to fool her if you're not a teacher. She is psychic as well as psychotic. No, she's not psychotic, she's fun. She can snuff it out, and she's gonna find out what school and what the administrator address that needs to be sent to. So, you know, you're not gonna come up with some PO box or your personal address or whatever. So please let the teachers who are doing remote teaching take advantage of this.
So OG, thank you. It's awesome. OG Buzzy has a question. Anyone, and we covered it somewhat earlier. Anyone know if Net Plus wants you to know port numbers? And if they are UDP/2DP, 2DP, wow, TCP, or do they just want you to know the port number? So
mostly port numbers.
Pardon me?
Mostly port numbers.
Port numbers, right. And there's a whole list of them in the objectives.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, so you should, I mean, they flat out tell you the 20 or so that they want you to memorize. And yeah, there's no way around just rote memorization. Flashcards are great for getting through it. Making your own flashcards and writing them down by hand is good. So yeah, it'd be usful.
Daniel James, your second question. I'll buy one of your programs if it will help you. It will help you. Bottom line, and practice tests, they help. They help you identify what you know and what you don't know. And our practice tests are written to accomplish a number of goals. One, to expose you to the type of questions that the types of questions you will encounter on CompTIA exams. People gripe all the time about this question was confusing, it was difficult, it could be worded better. You're right, everybody's right about that. But we're not going to change CompTIA's mind, so we're going to show you what CompTIA's got in mind. And then they gripe about our questions too, but you know what? When they've gone and taken the test and they've passed it, they say, oh, now I see why you did that.
Right.
And our test questions are, they are not the same as CompTIA questions. It's not allowed. That would be a violation of the non-disclosure agreement that all testers must sign when they take the test. However, our questions should be very familiar to many test takers when you, oh, hey, you know what? That question, I think I got a handle on that one. And probably because I took one of Mike's practice tests.
So one thing to mention with the practice tests, since we can't actually tell you flat out what the CompTIA questions are, but we know what they are. So a lot of times, not a lot of times, all the time, when we're writing questions, we are taking the same information that's in the CompTIA questions and testing you on that information. And here's the important part. The explanations of the incorrect answers will often point you to precisely the information you need to be able to get the CompTIA question right on the exam. So definitely read the explanations. Also want to point out one more thing while we were still talking about tests, that 50% off on the total tester. We have a lot more total test products than just A+, ITF+, Net+, Security+. We have everything from cybersecurity,
ISA+.
we have Amazon Web Services. We have all kinds of PenTest Plus. So go check out the website, check our products, and you can always email if you're not sure when like for example, you think you might take PenTest Plus down the road, but maybe not for another 6 months. We should be able to tell you very quickly when the test will renew. So whether this is a good deal to buy it now or wait. Okay.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
Witchblade, do we have to do Net Plus before we do Sec Plus? And what's the difference between CySA and Sec Plus? So first of all, you don't ever have to do anything in order to take a CompTIA test except give them money.
Sure.
For
Nope.
A+, there are no prerequisites of any kind. There's no recommended prerequisites, but there are. Ideally, if you're going to take a Sec Plus test, if you were to just do a quick down and dirty study for Sec Plus because you have been working in the industry as a PC tech for a year, and your company says, hey, go get certified, pay for it yourself, and we'll give you a raise, or we'll pay for it, and whatever. Having some hands-on experience is good. Net Plus has a recommended experience that you don't have to have. You can simply read a book or do nothing and take your chances, but they recommend that you have A+ certification or the equivalent knowledge and a year of some kind of networking work. Maybe you work with an installer, whatever, but you don't have to do that. And the way we do, what we do for folks who don't have any experience or little experience, is we write gigantic books that fill in many of those background experiences that you don't have if you haven't worked in a networking field. Well then, so we get into the Sec Plus. Sec Plus, you don't have to do anything, pay your money, take the test, and off you go. And if you pass, terrific. And if you don't, it's probably because you didn't have either the recommended experience or an equivalent, such as the information gained from a good study resource like a Mike Meyers book. But for Sec Plus, they recommend that you have the Network Plus or equivalent experience. So what do you know? How much time do you have to study? What have you done? What is your experience? Those are the things that will help you pass, but they are not requirements by any stretch. The difference between Sec Plus and Cybersecurity Analyst, CySA, is this. Sec Plus is a broad topic. There is computer stuff in there where they want you to know about computer security. They want you to know about the types of attacks. They want you to know about types of malware. But there's also a broad body of information in there that has nothing directly to do with computers or computer technology. Protecting facilities, managing people, and keeping them and your information secure. So it's very broad. And a lot of government agencies and folks want people to have that for that exposure to all those different areas. And then they move into a specialization track, like a computer security specialization, or like a human resources administration facility, something like that. CYSA is a computer security analyst. That's when we get into nuts and bolts of this kind of attack. And we talk about code and how to do man in the middle attacks. And once we know how to perform one, no, they're not going to teach you black hat stuff, but they're going to teach you white hat stuff, because then we learn about how to protect our resources from those kinds of things.
Right.
So, any more?
No, that's good.
Thank you.
So Taylor has a question. If you're not supposed to use restore points to roll back when you have malware, because you can just infect the points, then is system restore not considered a known good backup? Do you use images for that?
All yours.
Yes, use images for that. System restore is designed for the oops moment. I just installed new drivers and suddenly I can't play my game, because that's why we all do this, right? And to be able to go, let's go back and wait until NVIDIA comes up with a new set of drivers, but roll back to the old ones so that I can still play my game. That's what system restore is for. Yeah, you accidentally delete huge files or something, and you're like, you go to system restore and restore those. But yeah, that system restore does not preclude the need for a true backup.
Oh, definitely not. And of course, system restore doesn't back up files. It backs up configurations, Windows settings, registry, things like that. So if you got an infected file and you did a system restore to a point prior to an infection, that is the recommended thing. If you haven't already gotten rid of that infected file that's still on the computer, it has nothing to do with the fact that you did or didn't use system restore. It says it's because you got an infected file on your computer.
Right.
System restore and restore points don't have anything to do with that. Everybody's got a conversation on various recoveries and stories here.
Yeah. Like Mario specifically asking me, did you delete the operating system? Yes. Yep. Which one? Windows 3.1 or?
Yeah, I see that. Win 3.1, MS-DOS 622.
So on that system, the system that I had was a hand-me-down 8088, as in like the original IBM PC. And it had been updated to DOS 4.01, I think. Yeah. So pre-Windows period. And yeah, I didn't know anything about the command line. I was like, what are these dots when I type dir? I should just delete them because I'm going to clean up. And I did. So then I learned how to install DOS from 5.25 inch floppy after that. So yeah, the way we learn.
Andre repaired 2 systems last weekend. Both needed reinstall of Win 10. On Google said that Windows 10 is difficult to delete. I had no trouble using safe mode command line and disk part. Right, it's not difficult to delete. There just depends on your experience level, and even if it is difficult, it's only difficult once. Next time you've learned the lesson. Yeah,
Telewit mentioned that in an earlier comment, that he first tried to build a PC, a Cyrix based. Yeah. Remember that? Back in the 90s. Then jumpers, bent pins, much frustration. I feel your pain. I really do. The classes that we teach, when we teach A+ things, we'll go teach a 2-week class, and I and Dave will take huge Pelican cases of gear, so that not only is there stuff for all the students to build their own computers, but there's also a ton of backup gear, because the way we teach it is, it's okay. It's my stuff. If you break it, I just replace it. So we're going to learn and not fear.
Right. Drive it like a rental car.
That's right.
I got a question from Derek here. This looks like that email that we were working on this morning. Is that?
Messing around with my laptop installing Windows 10 and Ubuntu 18.04. Yes, it does. My machine wouldn't detect a Windows OS on a live USB. What was probably wrong?
So if that's the same guy or the same situation, a bunch of us took that as a research project and collectively came up with a couple of interesting facts about it. There are a number of manufacturers whose laptops are having a related problem. If you have that problem that says ACPI BIOS bug, unable to create blah, 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 blah. We found a lot of people who had who reported that and weren't able to get it fixed. And then as time grew on, people were posting fixes about turning off ACPI in their bootloaders, but that didn't work for everybody. And the one thing that seemed to work for everybody is your BIOS has a problem with Ubuntu, and it may be related to NVIDIA drivers. And the answer for those people who were all successful was a BIOS update. So check the age of that BIOS, check and see if there's more current firmware available for your machine. That may very well solve your problem. But Mike was in on that one. He researched that directly. Scott and I researched that one directly, and you're not the only one experiencing this. By the way, why are you doing dual boot instead of installing Ubuntu in a virtual machine? I hate when people ask a question and somebody answers with, there's a better way, do this. But in this instance, there's a better way, do this.
Tulawit mentions that there are also the continuing education units for renewing certifications. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. And then a little later, they can be things like attending seminars or lectures and other stuff they offer. So you don't have to take the test again. In other words, if you want to renew, you can instead accrue continuing education units, CEUs, over a period of time to keep yourself current.
And there's a couple of different CEU paths that CompTIA has gone down. What they used to do is about the only way to get CEUs from them. And Derek is asking what a CEU is in the next question. It's a continuing education unit. It's kind of like getting a college credit outside of a college class and having it applied to your degree. Well, CompTIA has the same kind of program for renewing certifications. So what they used to do is they conduct a variety of online seminars, live YouTube things, and if you attend those, then you get issued CEUs. And it's not free. You got to kind of join the program for like 45 bucks, but it beats taking a pair of tests for 550 bucks. And then over the last couple of years, I have seen them where they don't pre-bless something like this. However, if you were to, for instance, take one of our classes on Udemy, that has a specific number of hours and specific goals and measurable metrics toward the educational program. You can then submit that to CompTIA and say, hey, I took Mike Meyers' Udemy course for CompTIA A plus 1002. Can I get CEUs for that? And they know us and they know the course, and they will issue X number of CEUs. And how many you need to re-achieve is documented on their website. I see you grinning at something, Scott. What do you got?
A little bit later, people are laughing at my deleting DOS. Delete the dots. Yeah, no, it was funny. I mean, I wasn't laughing at the time, mind you, but yeah, it's funny in retrospect.
Witchblade, this is a question that comes up a lot. Mike answers a lot. Employers ask for experience, even at entry-level jobs. How does someone without experience tackle this hurdle? What gets you gents recommend? Or what do you gents recommend? Well, I'll put the mic hat on again. Get a job. You can't get that entry-level job you want. Get a different job. Get something that's easier. Volunteer, intern, fix your family's computers, and put that stuff on your resume. Certifications in Mike's favorite term, don't get you hired, but they get your list, they get your resume in that list where people will consider you. And after that, on your resume, tell them what you've done. So you haven't worked at IBM as one of their coffee chasers or one of their fill in the blank, but I fix people's computer all the time. I volunteer to work with the IT department at my local public school 2 days a week for 2 hours apiece. Get some experience. And that's it. You're not going to beat out somebody for a job who has been doing these kinds of things if you haven't. But if you can start getting anything under your belt, I don't know where you're located, but I know here in the States, there's been a phenomenon for about the last 3 or 4 years where on every block of every business street, there is a phone repair shop that's popped up. And many of them have been adding to their services. We'll fix your laptop, we'll replace your monitor screen or your keyboard or whatever. Go in and volunteer to work with them a couple hours a week just to learn with that. Just, hey, can I watch over your shoulder? Can I bring you the screwdrivers? Hey, I've seen you do that once. Can you talk me through that? And there's a million other opportunities like that. But, you know, if you're slugging it out with somebody who has experience and you say, I've read the book, I know a lot of this stuff because I read it, you're going to be a little lower on the stack than them. So do whatever it takes. Go to school, get a degree too. That's Mike's other thing.
Right. So Witchblade, yeah, we answered the question on how close our tests are to the real test. Close. They're very close in feel and the weird wording that CompTIA uses. Yeah, so they're close. Not precise, obviously, but yeah. And Daniel James, what's the website?
Yeah, that must be from an earlier conversation. Oh, CompTIA.org, if you're talking about where to find out about CEUs.
Right. Yeah, CompTIA.org. And they'll have information on that. Alice, we definitely answered Taylor's question. That was the restore point and system restore. So that was her question. So I think we hit that pretty well.
Transplant Health has given us a plug opportunity. Total Sims and Tester are priceless. So we haven't mentioned Total Sims. Total Tester is just an awesome test engine. It looks and feels like the CompTIA test questions and Tester, even the colors and the box sizes, we're good. We also have Total Sims. You know, when you take a CompTIA test these days, you get a series of what they call PBQs, performance-based questions. And that's when they're going to give you some kind of simulation. Sometimes you have to type in commands. Let me put my keyboard up here, not down there. Sometimes you have to click and drag things, and there's all kinds of recognize things, answer questions. Look at this thing and answer this question. And you look at all the different little factoids and things like that. Well, we have created a series of simulation type products. In fact, there's 4 different kinds of them. Some of them are close match. Some of them are just help you dig a little deeper into the technology. But yeah, so we have 3 products, and Mike is a firm believer that using those 3 products, the book, the video, and the tester, and that would include both the practice test and Total Sims, that's a complete package that will prepare you for the exam.
Absolutely. And yes, I'm currently working on the simulations for Security Plus. I promise. Just gonna hang my head in shame until we finish that product.
Kevin Lopez, how long are CompTIA vouchers good for, and can you reschedule? They are good for a year from the time that they're issued. So if you call up Total Seminars and buy one of our discount vouchers, it'll be start dated from the day you bought it for a year. Now, there are ways that people can extend beyond that. Remember, don't extend it past the retirement date of the test. But let's say there's a test of it that's going to retire in a year and a half, and you bought a voucher today, and for some unfathomable reason, you're coming up on that year and the voucher is going to expire. Schedule the exam, use the voucher. Once the exam is scheduled, you can reschedule the exam out later. You've already paid for it. So that's what many people do. And that's what a lot of people will do. there's an aftermarket. I bought this voucher and I didn't need it because I got it I bought 2 vouchers thinking I would need 2, but I passed the first time. And so there's a resale market. You can find them on eBay and probably on Amazon and on Craigslist. And so be careful about those. They're great if there's an opportunity for you, but make sure if and when you buy something like that, you know the expiration date on it, or if it's been rescheduled or used or something like that.
This is the one I was laughing at. Alice, what's Windows 3.1?
That was 7 revs ago, Alice.
And it wasn't actually a standalone operating system. It was a shell that ran on top of DOS, which was the command line operating system from Microsoft. So Windows 3.1.
If there's any corollary product like that today, and I can't think of anything.
No.
Your first PC was 486 SX25, so mid to late 90s. So I'm taking it you're about 21 years old. Yeah, with Math CoPro. Someday, somebody asked me my Math CoPro story. I used to help design motherboards, and we had some amazing things that we did with, for, to, and at Math CoPros. What's the average price point for a Raspberry Pi, and how much do they vary? 35 bucks. The current base model, there's the mini little model, the LBOE. Make sure you turn up to my Friday session where we talk in depth about Pi. But there's the little Pi Zero for between 5 and 13 bucks. But the real one that you want is 35 bucks. There's a higher one for 45, and there's a higher one for 75. Get the Raspberry Pi 4 with 1 gig or 2 gigs for 35 bucks. I think they're even selling 3s for 25. I may have misspoke that one.
Sounds good. And Alice said,
yeah, that's a different kind. Just go to raspberrypi.org and you'll see all the different makes, models, and list prices. Everybody sells them for list price.
So, yeah. You know, I don't know. Okay, good old days, Mario. Good old days. The games we're playing today are way better than the games we played back then.
I don't know. Zaxxon was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I mean it was. I had to add a math coprocessor to a 386 because they didn't come with one. Yeah, specifically to make my games run better.
Yeah, the 80387 and the 80287s.
Yeah.
Oh, Witchblade. I'm not at the gym. Instead, I'm here because this nice lady at Total Sim told me on the phone about live chat. Don't forget it. Good. Glad you found us. And
that's awesome.
I got a feeling you talked to Mandy, and good for you. Hey, Dr. Quinn, welcome. How are we doing on time? We got half an hour.
Half an hour. Ancient overlay for DOS. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so Taylor has a question.
Yep, that's the question.
That she says might be outside of A+, but in A+ terms. If someone's logged into the Windows domain and gets malware, does reinstalling the OS remove it, or is it inside the domain account?
You have a local operating system. If you get malware, your machine is the one that's infected.
Right.
It should not impact the domain. Unless it's malware on a shared site, or unless it's a worm that can travel through the domain network and infect other things.
Right. And the usual process for dealing with a malware-infested computer is unplug the network right away.
Step number 1, quarantine.
Yep, quarantine.
14 days, I think, is the current recommended quarantine period. And you have to make it wear a mask.
Wow. Not too soon, Dave.
Topical, baby.
Yes, Taylor, made perfect sense. People talking.
Yeah, we're getting near the end. That's good. We can do a little bit of
Windows 3.1.
Oh, I hear a Zorker out there.
Daniel,
go ahead.
We don't control the specials of the week. Our sales department does. This week is just the practice exams, not the total sims. Total sims have come up, So keep checking. Watch our AMAs, and who knows what next week's special will be.
Exactly right. They change week to week. We've had total sims in the past. I'm sure we will again in the future.
Da, da, da. Now I'm humming like Mike, right?
Yeah. Oh, please.
Right.
Hey, doesn't Android run over Linux? Yes, Android is a Linux port. It's obviously pretty specifically tied to the kinds of hardware we find in phones and tablets. But yes, it's a version of Linux, and you can do Linux things in it. If you root them, you can get direct Linux access. I mentioned this the other day. Something I did the other day was I installed an SSH server on here, and that gave me full access to its Linux environment. This isn't rooted or anything like that, but I'm able to do a large number of cool direct Linux things with my phone. And you can too if it's Android. Oh, there's Tullywood. I wanted this one. Hey, could you play Zork on the old DOS boxes? What more do you need? And you could play. Darn right. You know what? I still play Zork, and I have the floppies back there to prove it. And of course, they've been moved to thumb drive, and every now and again, probably every year and a half or 2 years, I pop open Zork and have to remember how to get past some of the real challenges. Look it up if you're not a Zorker, but I loved the text games of the 70s and the 80s. And I was
much more into the action stuff. Red Baron.
Oh, love Red Baron.
Wing Commander.
Yep, Jet.
So those challenged my systems and required me to take that was the first step in becoming a technician. I'm like, I need more RAM. So there we go.
I'm loving this question from Mario to you because I'm dying to find out if you'll be able to remember the answer.
I've been racking my brain, man.
I don't remember the video cards I used back then.
It's been so long.
88 days. They were all from ATI. I remember that. The ATI Wonder card.
I do remember my favorite ever video card was actually a Voodoo 1. It wasn't a standalone video card. It was a pass-through card that gave 3D acceleration to a Windows system, Windows 3.1.
Oh, cool. I don't remember that.
And I was in grad school at the time and dirt poor, right? But I'm like, the Voodoo 1 came out, and it promised and delivered on being the most amazing visual upgrade to gaming at the time. And I snuck behind my wife's back and bought it. I never to this day have told her that I did that, because sometimes gaming is worth it, risking divorce.
Here's one for you, Scott, from Kevin Lopez. Will the current version of A+, Net+, Sec+ retire anytime soon? I want to purchase all three to commit to doing them, but not ready to take them yet.
Okay, so they are retiring. The new Security Plus exam comes out in probably November, but the current Security Plus, the 501, won't retire for like another 6 months after that. So you've got almost a full year before Security Plus retires. Net Plus is another year past that, because it's already a year and a half into its cycle. So it will, the new Net Plus will go live in 2021. And again, CompTIA almost invariably leaves 6 months after announcing a new exam or debuting a new exam for you to be able to take the other one. So you've got a good solid 2 years to take Net Plus. A Plus is the newest, so it won't expire, or it won't rev until 2022.
Right, it's about a year old, so it's got another 2.5 years.
Yep.
Dave L., I love this question because people post this stuff very cryptically and never with a good answer. So now's an opportunity to do that. Dave L. says, how can you close open ports on devices when that device has no access to the terminal? For example, netstat minus ANL, for example, smart TV. Okay, if there is a port open on a box it's open for one of two reasons. Either it's built into the firmware of that box and you can't close it, and there's probably no reason to close it. For instance, take a printer that runs SNMP. Okay, there is no reason ever to close that. It's not going to hurt anything. You can go into the printer remotely with SNMP management software and modify parameters, change the communities, things like that. But if it's firmware based, it's probably not changeable or shouldn't need to be changed. If it's not firmware based, if it's running in your Windows computer, if it's running in a Linux server, whatever, there are two reasons that a port is open. And one of them is because you're running some kind of a server or service in there. And the fix for that is either stop running the service. That's how you close a port. Don't run the program that's listening on that port. If that's not possible for you, the workaround, the Band-Aid approach, is to do a firewall setting that blocks inbound or outbound calls to or from that port. It's as simple as that. So there's no program out there that says, I can close ports other than a firewall program. You just tell it not to use that port anymore. Stop listening on it. Oh, Alan Duggan. You get him, Scott.
Alan says, hey, Scott and Dave, should brain dumps be used when studying CompTIA exams, or should I only use the videos, the book, and the practice questions? I look at brain dumps all the time. It's technically maybe cheating a little bit. But what brain dumps, for those who are not familiar with these, when you sign up for a CompTIA exam and you take the exam, you have to swear up and down that you will not disclose what any of the questions are. So usually what people do when they finish taking their exam is they'll immediately go and write down every question they remember, because then they can share them with their friends. And that's what brain dumps are. So for seeing specific types of questions that you're going to get on the CompTIA exam, whichever one you're taking, brain dumps are useful. Where they're absolutely not useful is getting the right answer.
Right.
So if you, and we all do, if you go and look at brain dumps and you're like, oh, okay, here's a question on ports, let's say. And somebody invariably says, and the answer is this, like, don't believe them. Look it up yourself, right? Make sure you have the right answers because of your own research. That's what they're good for.
I've got, one of my jobs occasionally is to find brain dumps and research them and make sure that we are addressing the topics in our materials. And I got to tell you that even the best sources of brain dumps out there that bother to identify what they believe to be the right answer is, I'm going to call them wrong by 20%.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, why can't I see Dave on the chat? Am I not sharing?
You are not on the chat for some reason. I don't know why. It's like if you type @Dave, you don't pop up.
Okay. Well, I'm here and I'm reading the chat, so I don't know why.
What?
Because when I popped out or something, I don't know. It's a new configuration for me. I'll explore that for the next Shindig. We're going to be here Wednesday, it looks like.
Yeah, we don't know where Mike will be on Wednesday, or whether he'll be close to a reliable internet source. So likely this will be the same format for Wednesday. Yeah.
Derek, you're running Ubuntu 20 and using VMware. I don't have that answer yet, but again, this topic has come up of late, and I do recommend checking your BIOS, checking your firmware settings, and make sure you got a current BIOS.
All right. People are pinging me all over the place. How about these old games? Yeah, fun stuff. And of course, that's what we're here for, answering your questions, Daniel. Absolutely. LPOE, you've never heard of any of these games? Really?
That's because he's 16. I wish there was a way to run a check this program in my actual brain. I'm reading this question. I'm gearing up for a technical answer. That's good, LBOE.
I love it.
Should I do my Network Plus or CCNA? What do you want to do?
Did I jump?
I got ahead, I suppose. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, I've changed the size of my screen. So why? It all depends on what you're planning on doing with your life. If you haven't got a job in mind and you think you're going to need general purpose networking stuff, Network Plus. CCNA went through a change in February. They combined 9 of their certifications into CCNA, some of their cloud certifications and some others. So it's got 2 things that we need to concern ourselves with, maybe 3. One, it's got all the general networking stuff that Network Plus does. It was historically really cool to take Network Plus, and that covered 50% of CCNA, and then the other 50% of CCNA was Cisco specific techniques, tools, and so forth. But now CCNA is that stuff and so much more. So you've got to decide, are you going to be working in a Cisco environment where you need that Cisco stuff and the Cisco take on all of their other cool new sub-certifications that are built into it? Or are you looking for general purpose networking and you're not going to be Cisco specific? If that's the case, take Network Plus, or still good thing to do to take Network Plus to get the networking down, and then take CCNA and get the Cisco flavors.
So scrolling back up.
Yep.
Andre, not making any money because of his father, right? We covered that part. But Windows 10 is filling up the system hard drive of my niece's PC. What might be the cause of that?
How do you know that Windows 10 is the one filling it up if you're not sure what the cause is? So let's say that something is filling up your niece's PC.
You sure she's not just grabbing torrents on the side behind your back?
So what I would do, this is a little time consuming, but I would start at the C drive from the command prompt and do a dir search of the entire hard drive that orders everything by date. Dir star.star/s/ I think it's D, order by date, and you might have to a letter after the D. I don't remember what it is, DO maybe, but you can do a dir /question mark and find that out. And let that thing spit out its results and find out what new stuff went in the last 2 days. And then start researching that, what folder it's in and what the file names are, Google them, and that'll give you an idea of what they are and perhaps what programs are doing it. You can also check your application log and see what's running all the time. You can, you could do not resource monitor, performance monitor, perfmon, and set up some tracking traps and find out what applications specifically are doing the most disk access. So I don't have an answer to the question. My answer is, here's how you can find the answer to that question.
Absolutely, good stuff. Alice, yeah. I like LBOE's response. She says, I'm starting to feel like a weirdo because she doesn't know anything about gaming. And LBOE responds, that might mean you're the only non-weirdo. And Cully, thank you. Yes, July 2021 is when Security Plus, the 501, the SY0501 expires.
Exactly right.
So Witchblade.
Age limit to enter an IT career.
From taking A plus and moving on to
any other career.
Right. Do employers frown on older people with no experience applying for jobs? You want to put your mic hat on, Dave, and answer this one?
Yeah, let me reread the question closely here. Filling. Who posted this one?
Witchblade.
There it is. Okay. All right. In your opinion, what is the max age limit to enter an IT career from taking A plus and moving on to Sec plus or beyond that? Do employers frown on older people with no experience applying for job? Well, I don't know any older people. I know that it is illegal in the United States to deny someone employment based on their age. And frankly, I don't think that people frown on older people with the skills that are needed. So that, you know, we've talked about this experience thing with you before. You've got to do what it takes, and it might have to be a lesser job than you want right now. But as soon as you develop some of that experience, apply. I mean, there's a bazillion jobs out there. This industry does not suffer like some of the other industries going through COVID. It does. There's an impact, but it's not as bad as being a pilot or as being a restaurant operator. So there's work out there. And if you go to Indeed.com and you look up Security Plus required or A Plus required or Net Plus required, you will find jobs, job offerings. And Mike has talked about this in the past. Others have talked about this. Just because they have a list of 13 mandatory credentials and you only have 8 of them, if somebody else only has 7 and nobody with 13 credentials is applying, they're going to drop those. So apply. So, and is there a maximum age? Nah. Can you fog a mirror? Can you enter the building somehow? Can you get to the facility? Can you work remotely? Yeah, and you know what? Especially remote work, nobody sees you. You know, except unless you're doing an AMA, they don't know how old you are, or at least how old you look. So, you know, I wouldn't have a hard number on that. But if Mike fires me and I'm banging on 60 years old, I have no problem applying. Now I've got experience, so I'm going to apply in this business. But if I've had enough of this business and I want to change careers and go into nursing, watch me get the nursing school and watch me get a job in 3.5 years.
Yep.
At 60 and 70 and 80.
People are posting their
my first times.
Yeah. Oh, Taylor, I don't know. You're not missing much. It was just a very different experience. And in fact, to bring it more full circle, a lot of people who work very seriously in Linux, and that's like most of the people who are doing enterprise level networking, work straight command line. That what is old is just right current and the way we do things. So the idea of not being able to experience that old style stuff, you still can, but it's Linux now.
LBOE wants to know what happened if we violate the NDA and we get caught. And you're right, they will send a hitman because we're kind of in a special case. We write the books, so we are held to a higher standard. But long and short of it, if they chose to pursue us, they would have the upper hand on one nasty lawsuit. But that's not the reason that we don't violate the NDA. You know, that's just kind of a side benefit. We like to think of ourselves as people of integrity.
Right.
So I make that commitment to not disclose information, and I don't disclose that information. And everybody else in the company, Mike and Scott and Michael and everybody else I know, that's, you know, when Mike interviews somebody, he wants to know your technical chops, but he wants to know who you are and how you deal with life and what your level of honesty and your level of integrity is. And that's one of the reasons that we get hired by the company we do. However, if I ever did get caught violating the NDA, I would tell them that LBOE told me that it was okay.
I love it.
I don't think we're going to do a presentation today. We got about 10 minutes, but that's okay. I really enjoyed answering.
That's fun. Yeah. Esther, she mentions that her first secondhand computer was an 8088 hard disk, 20 megabyte, and MS-DOS. That's exactly what mine was. Yeah. And learning how to improve the auto exec bat.
Oh,
yeah.
config.sys.
Memory management. Wow.
Yep.
Challenge.
Yeah,
So Chris D has
that's this.
Chris D has a question on what computer book would teach a beginner to repair and optimize a computer.
Man, I wish we knew of a book title like that.
CompTIA A+, it's kind of your beginning tech thing. If you, just to give you the basic sense of how all the pieces work together, CompTIA A+ is going to be that. It goes well beyond just repairing and optimizing computers, because the certification covers things like printers and laptops and mobile devices and all sorts of other things. So it's a broader certification than just optimizing a computer. YouTube is good. YouTube, you can, like, people will post all kinds of crazy stuff on how they optimize a specific make and model. Yeah.
Yep. Mike Meyers, A+ certification exam prep guide, all in one book. It's called All in One.
Yeah, so that's a good one. So Derek George has another practical question.
Yeah, I like this one.
How do you do a BIOS update?
Derek, it's an easy thing. It used to be a lot scarier and a lot more dangerous than it is now, and it's still a little bit, but it's much easier, better than it has been. So there are two ways to do a BIOS update now. The stuff that's coming out today, computers that have been made in the last 2 years, have in their BIOS setup program in the administration area or the setup area, something like that, a program that's actually built into the BIOS environment that if you are connected to the internet, it will, you hit the big green button and say, go do this, find me a BIOS update, and it will call out to its manufacturer, look at the BIOS files that are available on their website, look at the version of the BIOS that you have, and say, oh, okay, they've got a newer one than you do. Do you want me to update you? Yes, please, enter. And it will pull down the BIOS file, and it will copy it to the appropriate chip or chips in your computer. And it can take a little bit of time. I've got a set that I work with very regularly that this process takes about 20 minutes. Certainly doesn't seem like it should, but it does, so okay. And the other method, if you've got a little older computer or even a modern one that doesn't use that method, you go to the manufacturer's website, go to their support section, find your make and model of computer, and that's important. You got to get the right one. And you'll find in their download areas current versions of firmware and other patches and drivers and things like that. And you save that to your computer. And the most reliable method is to copy it to a thumb drive, because that's where all the BIOSes know how to read them. Some know how to read it off of your hard drive, some don't, but they all know how to read a thumb drive. So you copy that firmware to your thumb drive, you plug it into your computer, you reboot it, and you go into the BIOS setup program, and you go to the update program, and it'll say, hey, I found a thumb drive. Which file on there do you want me to use as the update? And you browse through it, and you click it, or you enter on it, and it pulls the file off of your thumb drive and copies it into your BIOS chip, and you reboot in 20 minutes, and you got a new BIOS. So here's the thing that everybody's going to want to post up here, because they've all got a horror experience or they know somebody who did. Back in the day, this was a dangerous thing to do, because if you interrupt the upgrade process, it's called flashing, then you can corrupt your BIOS chip, and then your computer is the equivalent of a bag of hair. Just can't do much with it but carry it around and brush it. And that's true on older equipment. It is less true today. What tends to happen today is there's kind of a secondary chip. The file gets copied into that secondary chip first. That's the dangerous part when this copy is happening. And then there's a high-speed copy that goes from the buffer chip, the storage chip, into the real BIOS chip. That still takes a couple of moments, but if we don't power off, if we don't interrupt during that process, during that little short time when it goes chip to chip, it's very safe. And you hear much less stories of people bricking, that's what it's called, their computers and their devices from flashing the BIOS than we used to a few years ago. And the many that we heard a number of years ago. Easy thing. Check your manual, check the manufacturer's support site, and check your BIOS settings program, and it'll tell you what to do.
Very good. A lot of people are starting to leave as we're winding down to our last couple of minutes here.
Yeah, 6 minutes.
Tuluit, the baby.
Yeah, let's focus on.
Yeah, Daniel, I heard that Star Trek transporter beam sound. I think somebody transported into Dave's room. That's what I.
Not me, but that's my ringtone for text messages.
Nice. Yes, the command line is absolutely essential. We use it all the time in networking, not just in Linux, but in Windows and in Mac OS as well. So many of these the networking things, there's just so much easier to use the command line once you understand it. And it has its own logic to it. Know that it was created by humans, right? Using logic, and therefore you should be able to track their logic, and eventually it'll go, okay, I get it now. See how things are working. Yeah, our total tester practice exams have something like 1,200 questions in the A+ practice exam test bank. I mean, it's huge. Yeah, Net Plus is also very big. It's good stuff. I'm going to post the special again.
Yep. Meantime, is runtime power management and SATA power management in the BIOS enabled a performance killer? No. What settings in the BIOS are common that should be disabled for improvement in performance? None.
Yeah, none. It used to be a thing.
Things are optimized today.
Yeah. QBasic and DOS.
I remember QBasic.
Wow.
I was right on the edge until you said earlier, probably now. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Any prior experience? Oh, that's an intercommunication. Dave, happy trails. Thank you, Dr. Quinn.
So just for your information, we do these Ask Me Anything or Ask Mike Anything, or if it's Dave, it's a Dave Rush Ask Me Anything, so drama. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, right here on the Total Seminars channel in YouTube. Normally, of course, it's Mike, Monday and Wednesday, but Mike is currently traveling and is not connected closely enough to an internet source. And so he called on us to jump in and do the AMA for you guys today. And very, very happy to do so.
Transplant, you're right. No concert tea in the background. I saved those for Pi Day Friday, but I will have something new and creative and different for most of these when the opportunity to sub for Mike presents itself.
Awesome. If you would put up our contact information.
I would. That seems like a
so if you have questions, you can email them directly to Dave or to me, or both of us for that matter, or Mike. And whichever of us are on Wednesday, we can address those questions directly. More than happy to do so. There's our contact information. There's Michael M at TotalSem.com, Dave R at TotalSem.com, and then mine, Scott J at TotalSem.com. Feel free to email. We love this stuff. We really and truly love it. So being able to help you guys just brings us lots of love.
Amen.
Enjoy. And
hey, well, thank you guys all for showing up. Many thanks to Mike for allowing us to fill in his very big shoes that none of us will ever fit into, but we all have more hair than him, so it seems. Thank you for coming. Thanks, Scott, and thank you, Michael, working behind the scenes, doing the tech stuff to help make this stuff happen. We will do this again with either Mike or us on Wednesday. Come back, write us, and in the meantime, stay safe.
Oh, yeah, and click subscribe. Subscribe to our channel, right?
Forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel.
That's right. I
I can't believe you did the joke. We've gone all this time without doing that joke.
I know. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, folks, we'll see you on Wednesday. How do we do the wave?
Coordination. The magic button is up to you, Scott.
What? All right. So I'm just going to smile and look at the camera and, say goodbye.
Yeah, me too.
And at some point, Michael's going to kill us.